Hi, it's Etharal here with EGN and going to be starting a new series of Let's Plays today. I'm going to be playing on Cities Skylines. So it's the most up-to-date world sort of city building simulator, one that I've put a lot of hours into and I do actually really enjoy. So let's get started. I've not played this map before, so I'm not too sure what it's like, but from my experience with the other ones, they seem to be pretty similar, to be perfectly honest. So we'll get set up here in the usual way. So you just begin with your single plot of land and have to build your city from there. So I've got a usual sort of system that I do, so I'll take you through it, see how you like it, and we'll see how Los Rico grows. So this is obviously tropical land, so I'm going to do it in sort of a tropical name there. Now I'll get this all sorted, get the roads all joined up so that we can actually get the point where we can actually, be coming into and out of the city. It's the one thing that I'm not a massive fan of in this, is how the motorways do go into the actual sort of places themselves. I did wish that was a little bit easier, really. And we're going to work basically on a grid system. I tend to do it as a 1x2, as you can see there, just the way I like it. I just think it looks nicer, but we are going to jumble them up a little bit, so some of them will only be going as 1x2 in this direction and then some as 2x1, so basically going in the other direction. And we're going to do a 3-1 there as well. So this is going to set out the basic formula for what our first sort of neighbourhoods are going to look like. Obviously, one thing I did in my first game, which I'm not ashamed to admit, is I did accidentally forget to put this as close enough and forgot to place the turbines, as I do like to play quite clean cities. So we'll see what this looks like. We'll get obviously all of our water up, but yes, as I was saying though, I remember in my first game I did actually forget to set up the electricity and everything, and then wondered why everything was going horribly wrong. So one thing you will notice there with the water is that it does need to be, the pollution really should be downstream for the water intake. If it isn't, then trust me, that is not going to end very well for your people. And so I'm just going to get this all sorted so that there is going to be actual water running through every single one of these plots. That way the houses are going to be guaranteed to get all of the water and link up all of the power station, well, the turbines and all of the water as well. So we're just going to assign the different areas that we need for the housing first, and then we're going to put in some shops as well. Now this is a really useful tool that I did discover not too long ago. Don't know why it took me so long, that you can specifically assign rather than just putting in big splotches. Does definitely make things a lot easier there, really. So you can see the rough look at that's sort of how our first area is going to look. So we will get this started, and then we are going to line up our electricity through to the back of these, so that way they can start actually getting some power as well. And so then we will obviously start to do some industrial on the other side to keep it nice and far away from our actual city as possible. Obviously, the last thing we want to be doing is polluting the area where our residents are going to be living. And so we'll just get rid of that plot there though, just so that way, can really focus on getting them onto this side first and then move over to there, and that way the electricity will all line up correctly. Now what I am going to try and do is I am going to aim to try and make this as clean a city as possible. So we're going to see if we can get as dense in sort of as small an area as possible, and ultimately try to get rid of any industrial and use only sort of wind turbines and sort of solar power, basically things, rather than having actual sort of pollution with power plants and things like that, even though they do tend to give a lot more energy. So it's something that I will have to watch quite carefully, certainly beginning out. Once it does get to the later stage though, it does tend to tick over by itself, but that's only once you get sort of hydroelectricity and you've got a lot of power coming in from those. But obviously we'll cover that at a later date. So we're going to set this up here now to start getting our industrial, as obviously you can see in the bottom, in about the middle or so, the three different colours obviously for the desires of the city, and the industrial side has shot right up. So we are going to assign some industrial areas here just to get them to start working on that. Obviously make sure that we do connect them up to the power, obviously. So we're going to try and keep it as far as possible out of the way of any of our residential areas, although the industrial areas not so bothered about those. So get that set up and get the water set up. Now this is a pretty, solid sort of city building simulation game. It's got all the stuff you'd expect on there, so you're going to have to obviously manage the power, the waste, the water, education, crime, all that sort of stuff. It's nothing really unsurprising here. This is something I see as something very much of a spiritual descendant of the Sid Meier's City games, so the Sim City games, which seem to have just dropped off the place, the planet. I don't know myself exactly what happened with them. Wish that I did. But, we're going to see how this goes. You will notice as well, I do have the expansion for the actual day and night cycle, which is quite nice. And one thing you will notice on later on is they seem to have put in an update which adds in weather, so you are getting sort of rain and things like that. I do believe there is a winter one, which a seasons one, I guess, which adds in like winter and summer and things like that to the effects, which will definitely be something I'm looking at getting pretty soon. Should be quite a nice little thing. I will just mention as well, in terms of mods, I don't have many mods attached to my knowledge. I think the only one that I have is the one that allows you to unlock all of the lands, as obviously in the base game you can only unlock 9 plots of land out of a possible 25. Obviously in the later games, when you want to build massive big sprawling cities, I do like to be able to choose all the 25, and then you can really have sort of a big metropolis going, rather than, I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously 9 squares is still a very, very large metropolis, but there's something about having that sort of 25 sort of square kilometers is a really nice feeling when you do see that all come together. So this is going along quite nicely. We're actually going to start to get rid of some of the pylons, as obviously lands are joining up. We don't actually need them. You will notice there we don't need any of these pylons going to the industrial area, which is good, so we might as well get rid of that. You will notice as well our population has rose quite steeply, and we are actually now at a point where we are actually going to be looking at starting to hit the first milestone pretty soon, which is where you start becoming an official hamlet. It's quite a nice little feature that this game has, so rather than it just giving you everything all at once and overwhelming you, you unlock things as you actually increase the population. So the more population that you have, the more different things you're going to have to manage. So eventually it is going to, I believe the next one that it's going to unlock is the waste, the medical, yep, there we go, and also as well the basics of primary school education. So all very, very useful things to have, and it steadily builds into the game until it does become quite complex. Obviously these games are very much ran on how good they are in terms of their sort of traffic and things like that. So their traffic management, their road networking, things like that. This is something that, as you will see in the later game, it works really well at the beginning sort of levels. However, when your city does start to get a lot bigger, it's something that I am iffy on. And to be honest, it does get quite annoying when you'll see hopefully in later episodes where you've got, massive, highways and things like that, and then everybody's in one lane, even though they are actually turning in a direction where technically they do need to be in another lane. But obviously that is kind of just part and parcel with the actual sort of genre itself. Unfortunately, it does tend to happen quite a lot. This game, it's something that I have particularly noticed it in, but obviously we'll get to that at a later date. So we are now just sort of expanding our nice little hamlet here. Going to get some more housing to be able to expand our people, and we are hopefully going to, okay, we seem to have lost electricity there. Not too sure what happened with that one, but we will just, nice and easy, just rejoin that, no harm, no foul sort of thing, and it's easily resolved. And so there we go. I will admit, being able to, when you open up these things, bringing up a colour code of exactly what it is that you are looking for is definitely a very, very useful feature. So rather than having to jump around different menus, although I think I will at some point show you what the actual sort of options look like for how to some different stuff with noise pollution and things like that. When obviously your city becomes bigger, it is quite a good little thing to actually be able to look into. You will notice as well that I probably spend more money than I should on the plumbing, rather than just having it all in one consecutive thing. I do like to have it all linked up, more sort of pretty much how an actual city would actually be, basically. So we are going to get this all set up here. Right, okay, I don't know what I was doing there. Obviously I am sort of recording these vocals afterwards, so I couldn't say what my logic had been putting in that one little bit. You just accept it, and unfortunately cut over there into the power there. One thing I will just mention as well, this is going to be a series I'm going to look at running every single week, so please do feel free to subscribe if you enjoy it. Obviously if there's any suggestions that you have for the direction you'd like me to take the city in, or maybe even any challenges you'd like me to try and do in this game, then please do feel free as well to leave a comment below. And one thing that this game doesn't have that the SimCity games did used to have, unfortunately, is the natural disasters. You could put in earthquakes, volcanoes, even down to like Godzilla sort of style monsters and massive giant robots. Obviously there is a certain joy to building a city up massively and then just dropping a giant killer robot on it and watching it go to town on your city. Yes, pun intended there, hopefully. And also, though, that is something though that I did enjoy in the later games, as obviously these games, once they do hit a certain point, it very much just becomes repetitive. You're pretty much just managing the actual, generally keeping sure that everything is keeping pretty much even, which, let's be honest, in these games, once you hit a certain point, you've got a big enough sort of weight of population and industrial behind you, is not exactly a difficult thing to do. There is one thing that is nice, which I will mention on. You will notice that there are trees and that dotted around. It's not something that I'm going to use in this city, as like I say, I am aiming to get this to sort of a first world sort of city of all sort of businesses and rather than industrial and producing things. But you can actually, in the later sort of, when you've got a lot larger, then you can actually, and you can start assigning zones, then what you can actually do is you can actually assign it so that your city is, rather than actually sort of producing just general purpose industrial areas, you can actually have them produce forestry areas, or, you know, coal areas, oil, and also as well obviously the general ones. I'm sure there's other ones that I've forgotten there. Like I say, it's not something I tend to do. I'm liking trying to do the just basic sort of try and produce somewhere that it's actually a nice clean city, although it is going to be very, very large by the end of it. It's one thing you will notice later on, I will obviously start putting in when you get the higher density housing. So these are just sort of little suburb style housing at the minute, that I can assure you will change very, very quickly at a later date. Okay then, so you can see here we're just expanding our industrial area quite nicely there. We've also put in an extra area of an extra road connection, just because if it was a case that these do start to build up quite a bit, obviously just having one single connection is going to be something that will actually just really sort of be a lot of high traffic in there. We want to give them a couple of different options of how to get over to their jobs. Okay, so we're going to add some extra ones in there, and as soon as we take it off pause, you can see straight away that the buildings start coming up very, very quickly, which is always nice. It is a case that this place is building itself up quite a bit, and hopefully we are going to pretty soon hit the next milestone as well in terms of the city population. I believe it is when we hit 1,000, which hopefully should be pretty soon. And there you go. As I mentioned, obviously having to make sure that you manage the electricity correctly. And so let's add in a couple of extra turbines. You will notice later on I will change to the more advanced turbines, which are out obviously in the sea. They cost a little bit more, but they produce a lot more energy and being a lot more efficient. So we are classed, there we go, as just shown up there again, a little hamlet at the minute, but hopefully we will get up to being an actual full hamlet pretty soon there. Okay, so just checking out one thing that I do like as well, utterly completely pointless in this game, but you will notice that when you can bring up things, you can actually choose to focus on sort of naming them, or focus on and follow around that area. You can do the same with cars and people, and just generally see what it is that your people are going about doing. We're also going to, as you will see here, one thing I do find that I tend to battle with quite a lot and struggle with is the education, certainly at the elementary school level. And here I think it may be something I might have realised is that basically it's because of the fact that I didn't have enough elementary schools for the population that we have, although that is likely because of a lot of adults going back and getting their elementary school education at the minute. It's something that will go down generally when it's only children going there, but still we are going to add an extra one in there, improve their happiness, and we will expand out. And this is where you can see a problem here, as we are, well, not so much a problem, just more of a sort of capstone weight on the actual game, as obviously we don't have enough money to be able to build the areas that we would ideally like to be building. But it's just a case of waiting for a couple of seconds, and then you go, you've got enough money, build the area, and then wait while obviously the population goes up. We are obviously pulling in quite a decent bit of money. We're pulling in about 875 at the minute. I think that's actually, it's steadily rising as well. And there we go. So we're not a main hamlet. We're actually going to be now classed as a worthy village. So we get the police station and the fire station. So another 2 mechanics that are getting added in. One thing you will notice as well in this game is that when you do hit these milestones, you do get a cash influx to be able to pick up some of the buildings that you have unlocked or get partway to some of the buildings. Obviously it's something that's quite nice is when obviously the issues for the police and the fire station become unlocked. Obviously it is pretty important that you do get those so pretty quickly, as obviously there's quite a few houses here and there is a good chance that they are actually eventually something's going to set on fire. And obviously if you haven't saved up the money yourself, then you're going to find yourself hitting a couple of problems, to say the least. So we'll expand into another area for this. And so we will unpause it, obviously everything, and see, hopefully, as we get a lot of new villagers, just going to add in some extra water pipes there again, just to keep the area nice and completely covered. That way there's no chance of accidentally expanding this area a bit and then realising that we've ran out of any. Sort of run out of plumbing and things like that. Obviously, might as well, since we've got the money at the minute, we might as well just use it to get that sorted. Although probably wasn't my best idea, as obviously we are still waiting for a fire station. I probably should have just waited, saved up money, gotten the fire station out of the way first. Really do not like the look of that blinking light there. It seems to be something that's okay, but you know, still makes me always a little bit nervous. Now, one thing I will mention as well in this game is that obviously, as I mentioned earlier, you can click on and select people and follow them about. You can also rename everything, so you could rename what a company is called, you could rename a person. Although one thing I would challenge you to do is to rename a person, let things run on for a little bit, move around quite a bit, and then try and find that person. Even in a small city like this, well, a small village like this, is something that you're probably not going to be doing all that quickly, and it's going to take a little bit of time to find them, if at all. Bigger cities, it's just not going to happen. So although it's a nice feature, it's something that's pretty much just, you know, kind of pointless, to be perfectly honest. And you will notice also there, I am just waiting to try and be able to get another place to get some power. Another turbines, obviously. This is something that we are in the yellow, so we are producing just about enough, but obviously it does fluctuate, and obviously that is something that we can't really risk. So we'll get another one here, making sure to keep them obviously away from our city itself as much as we can, as obviously they do have, even though they don't have sort of air pollution or land pollution, they do have noise pollution, which brings down the value of the land that they are around. Not really too much of an issue at the minute, but it is, I just think, quite a good habit to get into, to make sure that you are getting everything right from the beginning, and that way you're not having to go back and correct things at a later date as much. Although one thing I would say, at later days, I would definitely recommend moving around the place, these, rather than buying new ones. Just relocate them, saves you a bit of money, and obviously as your city expands. And so let's see, next one is a tiny town at another sort of 155, or well, 155. We will now be classed as a tiny town, so we're outside of the village and hamlet stage, which is quite nice. And obviously we'll unlock some new features, which we will cover when we get to that though. and as you can see, there is a lot of desire for buildings and new commercial areas. This is something we will need to sort out pretty quickly. We're just wanting to save up some money first to try and resolve some issues. Obviously, as very well aware that there isn't any actually fireplaces, or fire stations I should say, and this things just came up saying obviously that we do have new services, and that quite a bit unsure why it says that, as there hasn't been any unlocked yet. Obviously those are the buildings for getting sort of hitting specific targets. We will cover those at a later date as well and see if we can unlock some of those, get some of the sort of plazas and things like that that you have access to, and like expo centres and things like that. So this is coming along pretty nicely. We are actually getting close to hitting the mark that we were hoping for. So what I am going to do is I think I am going to actually get it to the tiny town area, and then I think we will leave it for today. We are just going to expand though out into the commercial areas, and I'm going to take back again these pylons, as there's obviously no sense in having them, as obviously we are pretty much right up to these ones here. So we'll cut that back a bit to give us some more area for commercial zones. We'll just mention as well, obviously, if there is any challenges or anything like that that you want me to do during this video series, please do feel free to send me a comment. I will happily try out any, and we'll see how they go. Also as well, obviously do subscribe. I'm going to be putting these out alongside my other videos every single week, so if you get your notifications in, so you'll know when that they are actually out, and then it makes things a bit easier for yourselves basically. So I think I am going to be getting pretty close now. We have pretty much stalled, however, on the terms of the population, so we are actually going to, we're bleeding some there where we've had to destroy some houses, but we are going to expand. We do also decide to take out a loan though. Basically that loan is just going to be able to get the fire station that we pretty much desperately need. And you will notice them very quickly all turn to blue. There's some on the outer edges that still aren't, and the industrial area definitely isn't. Honestly, to be honest, in these games I have given up trying to get the industrial areas to actually sort of follow along and actually be pretty much completely safe. We do get rid of our policy for fire safety. It's costing us money. We've now got the fire station. It's nothing too much to worry about, and we will just build up this residential area, and then obviously we will need to look at getting a new fire station at some point soon, but we should be okay, or reasonably okay for the minute I should say. So we'll get this other land built in here, and obviously again the pipes, as you can see, it's a pretty simple system for this game to follow on with, so we will just keep expanding and see how we go from here. So this has pretty much been, I'm going to be leaving it pretty soon, so I will just say thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this. If you do want to see more of these, be sure to leave a comment and a like and all that sort of stuff, and I shall pretty much be, and there we go, and just in time we managed to hit the tiny town stage, and we will obviously cover in the next episode exactly what that involves. And so I think that's pretty much everything from me, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you next time here at EGN.